Spoiler alert, this podcast will be including information regarding the most recent episode of The Wheel of Time on Amazon. Haven't seen it yet? Go watch, then come back.
Hey, Rand, he's not your dad, but there's a dark one who loves you more than all. Remember to keep Egwene by your side. There's no place you can hide from Frolics or Mairaine. Yeah. Remember to keep Egwene by your side. There's no place you can hide from Frolics or Mairaine.
Part of Double P Media, doublepmedia.com.
To go along the ways is frightful. Any fire we light, delightful. But since the way's loyal nose, to the eye of the world we will go.
From Kwanzaa to Christmas, from Hanukkah to Festivus, we want to wish all of our listeners a happy holidays from the Double B Bustin Blockbusters. And as a special gift to our listeners, we are giving you the fact that Catfish is not with us this week. That means that you get more me. That's a double M, just like my name, Matt Murdock. Thanks for joining us this time around. And I know it's just like a coal in your stocking. It's not the gift that you wanted, but it's the gift that you need because it's going to get cold. And so you need that extra coal in your stocking just so you can stay warm this winter. Like, unless you live in the Northeast, I don't think anybody else uses fossil fuels anymore. Nonetheless, a coal in your stocking is what you get from Bustin Blockbusters. Fortunately, there is another gift. You also get the podcast co-host who's been with me the entire time. Just like Rand, he often uses the one power, but never tells anybody about it. It's Bubba. Bubba, welcome back to Bustin Blockbusters.
Man, oh man, I cannot wait to describe an episode that I feel very, wait for it.
Oh, wow. That's what you call a professional tease, ladies and gentlemen. That is a professional tease. And we're going to be talking about The Wheel of Time, Season 1, Episode 7, The Dark Along the Ways this time around. So if you're not caught up with the show yet and you want to hold off, we're still going to be here. Granted, the opening with all of the holiday festivities may seem a little out of place, even just 2 weeks from now. But nonetheless, you get us anyway. And Bubba, I'm going to keep your tease from going any longer. I want to know how you rated this episode, Season 1, Episode 7.
Well, you don't want to go much longer, but I'm going to talk forever about this episode that I loved and gave 9, what I like to call double R's out of 10.
Wait a minute. First of all, 9, that might be one of the highest ratings that you've given this season. And 2, what the heck are double R's?
It is rapid randemption. We have had people dissing Rand, the Chosen One, the Dragon Reborn. In this episode, he has a little bit of stumbles, a little bit of ways like a typical man. He doesn't know how to say, I'm sorry. But Rand is the man. Rand is stepping out. Rand is going to save the world and also leave his friends behind so they can be saved. Randemption, 8 out of 10. And let me just say the main thing I thought throughout this whole episode.
Please do.
This is it. This is the story. Logain is very interesting. He's fascinating, but he's not this story yet. Xuan Sanse and her relationship, and even the White Cloaks, who I love, they're all interesting, but they're not this story. This story that was presented to me in episode 1 and episode 2 and kind of started to get off track a bit in episode 3 is about these 5 people from the 2 rivers who are chosen, who could be the one who could defeat the Dark One, and they have to go on this journey, this quest. And it felt like somewhere around episode 3 through episode 6, we got off track of what the story was. And I think it is smart if you're a showrunner to flesh out the world and maybe paint little Easter eggs and hints about upcoming stories and plot lines. But they have to be small little hints. They shouldn't overtake an episode. Xuan Sansei is great and fascinating, but she really isn't. She's a minor player in this journey of the 5 Two Rivers people going to confront the Dark One. Even, and I may get some grief from this, even Lan is a great, fascinating guy, but his specific role in this is a bit like Legolas. He's not carrying the ring. He's the protector. He should be the side character. This story is about these 4, wait, hold on, 5. Oh, wait, 1 didn't get in the way gate. These characters going on this journey. And so when it focused on them so much in this episode, I was like, this is the story. These are the characters you got me invested in the first 2 episodes. I loved it. 9 out of 10. I am through the way gate. I am ready. Let me tell you, I am ready to completely dive in to the Blight. I'm ready. I can't wait for episode 10. I'm excited. I loved it.
I am glad that you loved this episode. I thought it was a really good episode. I can't rate it as high as you, Bubba. I just can't. And I do have some biases going on here in terms of being a book reader and what have you. And I don't quite know how to translate that into some of this episode that we saw. I'll try and air that out as we go along. But I could only give it 8.3 out of 10, what I like to call double A's.
Double A.
Yeah, angry archers. Because Rand, he was taking it out on that poor target. I couldn't believe that poor target had to suffer that much from Rand's who knows how much 1 power he put into those arrows as he shot him through those targets.
But it looked like at least 2 powers.
Yeah, maybe 7. One of the things, of course, that I did love, and I think you probably loved too, was part of the reveal of Rand, and that was the opening that we got with his mom. What a woman! She fights off 6 guys while in labor, and the 7th guy just turns out to be Rand's dad, who obviously adopted Rand from that mountain, and I love that. That was true to the story as far as the book goes. The Rand reveal later on, though, it felt like some of those flashbacks and everything was a little bit retconned, just in the way that, I guess they tried to emphasize so much the question of who is the Dragon Reborn that all of this stuff seemed just a little bit awkward to me. But I still love the fact that they did finally get around to it before the last episode. I didn't want to see all 4 of these people going in there and us still going, oh, who is going to do the thing? And so I loved that. One of the things that I really loved also was the return of Padan Fain. We saw him stumble out of the Waygate there. And there was something that was going on that I didn't really mention to you guys. I did in a couple of the book reader podcasts. But when Padan Fain first came into town, he was whistling, right? He was whistling this tune. And then you go to Shadar Logoth, and what is it that wakes Matt up when he decides to go looking for that dagger? Whistling. You heard that same tune, just a snippet of it, whistled again.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then,
wow, I didn't notice that at all. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. And then, this is why I love the subtlety of it all. Finally, in episode, what was that, 5, when Rand and Matt first got to town at Tar Valon, they actually had whistling as they were walking into the inn, right after Rand said, hey, Matt, you need to clean up, being the insensitive person that he is. You heard the whistling again as they were walking into the inn. And I loved that. So you knew it was all going to be there. So as soon as I heard that whistle in the ways with them this episode, I was like, yes, Padan Fain made it. And this is something that happens in the books too. He follows them all the way through. It's not made as quite as subtle or overt as it is with the TV show in the books. There's a man that kind of stumbles around and runs into Rand a couple of times that you find out is Padan Fain later on in the book. But I loved that reveal. I love the fact that Perrin actually saw him, probably his wolf thing, because he was, Padan was probably in disguise. And I thought that was all so cleverly put together. I got to get to the negative now.
Negative.
Yeah.
Matt, I gave it a 9 out of 10. You're over 8 out of 10. There's no negative. How could there be?
Well, I probably got my 0.7 off of you because of one single episode metric.
Episode metrics.
Oh, wow.
And that is the WDTBA-CWTAS, which stands for, when did this become a CW teen angst show? I mean, all of this stuff with Perrin and Egwene, this love triangle thing, that I don't know. I don't even know if it's even hinted at in the books. There's a point in the books when they're with the Tuathalan where you kind of get an impression that Perrin's a little bit jealous of Aram and Egwene kind of dancing around and developing a relationship. I took it always as a reader, probably more so from the perspective of he's just being protective of her on Rand's behalf. But here they've played this whole thing up, and they tried to then play it right back down again, which is what every CW show does. And that made me feel a little bit uneasy about the way that they're treating some of these characters and their storylines. Why introduce this at all if you're not going to make it into something bigger? And then Rand just leaves them all behind anyway. And so that's a little
to protect
weird
them.
for me
He
as
leaves
well.
them to protect them.
To protect them, and because he wants all the glory. He wants the Heisman Trophy for himself.
If
He's
you
not
love
willing
someone,
to share.
set them free. A wise Aes Sedai known as Sting said that one time.
Okay. But the final thing that I'll just say about all of this is the fact that despite my poo-pooing on the CW stuff that I consider the CW stuff, the music that accompanied both Nynaeve and Lan and stuff that we had heard previously with Rand and Egwene, and it was brought forward, was so beautifully done. And I've got lots to talk about with that in the music section. I'm going to save it here. I wanted to say it kind of all up front, but it's in the music section, which is a 12-minute long section this week. So you'll know exactly how long to skip ahead when you get to that if you don't want to hear it. Whew. I'm glad you loved it, Bubba. I didn't hate it, but I just found some other things that I didn't like about it as opposed to you. But no matter what we think, Bubba, our opinions are just ours. We need to hear from our listeners, our loyal listeners, our double L's. And that way we'll know exactly how we should have been thinking once you tell us how we were wrong, which happens to me a lot, especially from one particular dude that we'll hear from this week in our feedback. More on him later. But please contact me. Tweet at Blockbuster on Twitter. Also, you can tweet at the word double. The letters PHQ stands for Podcast Headquarters. At the word double, letters PHQ on Twitter. You can also find the Facebook page for the Double P at facebook.com/the word double, the letters PHQ. You can find our YouTubes and leave comments there as well. youtube.com/c/the word double, the letter P, media there, and also go to doublepmedia.com. Again, that's the word double, the letter P, media.com, or you can go to Matt's audioblog.com, MATTS audioblog.com. You can find a contact form there or send an email to me, mattsaudioblog@gmail.com. We need to hear from you. I also want to see tweets of screenshots of you being subscribed to any Double P podcast. Don't forget that Parsec Passion is returning very soon with coverage of the Book of Boba Fett. You must check out that podcast because I do musical analysis there too. Oh, no, wait. Because Bubba and Catfish do a great job having fun with all of the Star Wars franchises that are showing up on Disney+. That's why you need to subscribe to Parsec Passion. Look it up, subscribe to it, take a screenshot of you being subscribed or a screenshot of you being subscribed to this podcast or to the Double P Media YouTube or to any Double P podcast, and you will be entered in a contest to win an officially licensed Amazon apparel of some kind of your choice, really. And I will pay for it. It's not on me because I've found out that people kind of reject that thought, but it is paid for by me. So please send those tweets to @BusBlockbuster as soon as possible, because next week when we cover episode 8, which will be slightly delayed due to the Christmas holiday, but next week when we cover it, we will be drawing our winner. And if you aren't subscribed and haven't sent me a screenshot, you can't possibly win. So what are you waiting for? It's free stuff, man. It's free. I hate it when people just decide that they don't want to win things. But you know what I hate more?
What?
I hate Rand more. There's so many reasons that I hate Rand this episode, Bubba. So many reasons. I couldn't even, I was
Impossible.
overwhelmed with the way that I wanted to hate him. And there's lots of people have submitted things as well, so we can talk about that. But
Okay.
I think the person that hates Rand the most this week, which is what we try to do in this segment, is try to determine who in the episode hates Rand the most. I mean, it's got to be Min, right? The bartender who was the seer that Moiraine came to consult, because evidently, as we find out later on in the episode, Rand has been giving her nightmares for 20 years. She had a vision when she was a little kid of Rand, and now she's over and over and over. She keeps seeing this vision, she says. And I mean, how traumatizing is that to have Rand in your dreams for 20 years? It's awful.
I don't know. I think if you're Min, and when you first said who hated Rand the most, I thought you meant men, M-E-N. And I was like, well, okay, he gets with Egwene and men might hate him, but no, you mean Min the seer. So, you know what? He proved that she's not insane. He's real. So she should be thankful for him haunting her dreams for 20 years, because if he was an imaginary person, he wouldn't have shown up and she might have thought she was crazy. Nice work, Rand.
I don't know about that. Well, I tell you what, Bubba,
Yes.
there's something that has been made perfectly clear to me,
Oh,
which
what's
will
that?
not change the course of this podcast at all.
Oh,
But I put out an impromptu poll, just a one-day poll, just to see who was paying attention. And it's
Wow.
clear that not many people are paying attention to my polls on Twitter, because I asked, who is the bigger jerk? A Rand hater or a Rand defender? And 1,400 votes came back.
wow.
And yet 71.4% of you voted that the Rand hater was the bigger jerk.
Whoa.
I mean, do I come across as a jerk? I guess I do. I'm sorry,
Matt,
but I'm not sorry.
I want to say that you do not come across as a jerk, but I have to obey the poll, and the poll says that you do. So
I'm the bigger jerk. In this particular podcast, I'm the bigger jerk. Bubba, you've been a Rand defender
I have
all
Rand Fender.
season long. And
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe the poll got skewed somehow. Maybe they saw the results, or they saw the answers in the wrong order and just clicked the wrong one. I'm claiming that we need a recount, but
What?
I'll leave it to you guys. You have spoken. It's not going to change the course of this podcast at all. I will continue to hate Rand. I will continue to force you to hate Rand as well.
No, Matt, is it possible? Now, I don't know how many people are checking this out currently on YouTube, but if they are, they may see my hair curling a bit. And so is it possible that I've been Randfected with his Harpo hair and my hair is curling up? So don't trust
I thought
me.
Catfish had that covered last week.
He tried to, and that's why he had to leave. Is he couldn't, curl those. He couldn't get the nice rollers going in his hair, like my little curve in the front of my head. Hey, you know what, Matt? We do want to know though, who hates Rand the most in these episodes of the Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime, but. Don't ask me. One of our loyal listeners wrote in and said they know who was the Rand hater here in episode 7.
Oh, no. Who is it?
It is your friend and mine. And by your friend, I mean your online enemy at Patman23 on Twitter. A great follow. Patman, he did beat you on this, Double M, in that he said the Rand haters in episode 7 will no doubt point out that Rand's very first crime was he inconvenienced his mom when she was at work. And so she is the Rand hater in this episode. Oh, Patman, he nailed it.
He's my 24th favorite Patman on the internet. I mean, he is, but wait a minute. Wait a minute, Coach T here.
Is that you, Coach T?
Call me Coach Trolloc.
call me Coach Trolloc from now on, but I say this man, this Patman 23, should drop down and give me 23 because he's got it all wrong. If anything, Rand should be treated as an accessory to murder. If he hadn't been so greedy to get out of his mother and demanded that his life was more important than hers, then she wouldn't have gotten stabbed. And so, Rand, an accessory to murder, drop and give me 50, Bubba.
Oh my goodness gracious, Coach Trolloc. Here, I thought you got fired for kicking that kicker. Hashtag topical humor. So, Coach Trolloc, come on, Coach Trolloc. Rand.
I have no comment about that.
Rand hate starts at birth, his birth. So I don't think his mom can officially be a Rand hater.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that Rand isn't a murderer at birth.
Coach T, get out of here. Get out.
Yeah, Coach T.
Go back to your corner. Go back to the general manager's office. Go back to Mydril Fade's office and just hang out there and chill out, please. I guess, Bubba, since Patman had the last word there on, because we don't care what Coach Trolloc really says. Oh, I do. I'm Team Trolloc, but we don't really care what Coach Trolloc says. Maybe we should move on to talking about this episode.
The great episode that I love and you tolerate. Let's talk about it.
All right. It's a little section we like to call blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to give just kind of a little bit of, based on Bubba's notes here, I'm going to give a little bit of a recap. We can add notes in as we go. We've already mentioned, of course, that the very beginning of this episode, we have this wonderful Aiel woman who is just kicking butt. She's just taking care of all of these soldiers. And what it was 6 guys. She's in labor and she still fights guys off. I just loved it. And one of the things that I really loved about this, Bubba, was the fact that, I mean, where would Rand get his powers? What would make the Dragon Reborn soul go into him? Or maybe it was even Rand's influence with this woman once she became pregnant. It's unclear. But some of those stop shots of her, where she would like be able to eye the situation and it almost seemed like they were frozen. I kind of interpreted that as something a little superpowered in a way. I know we didn't see the white trails of channeling and that kind of thing, but I almost kind of interpreted that as being a display of a use of channeling in some way. I don't know if that impression got to you, or if you just thought it was shot cool, or if you just thought that this is the way Aiels are able to think faster than everybody, which makes them great warriors. What were your impressions of the battle here?
Well, first and foremost, I love a good action scene to kick off an episode. Now, you keep mentioning the term Aiel, and we have heard that before, but maybe I'm a slow, not paying enough attention non-book reader, but I really don't even know what an Aiel is. I would assume an Aiel is a woman who can kick every man's tush in any battle. So that's what I'm going to guess. Once again, I think I'm pretty good at coming up with clues. But it's almost how in past podcasts I've said they almost need to emphasize things. If you hadn't mentioned that special sword under the bed in episode 1, because it doesn't feel like he's really used that sword an awful lot since then, I would have completely forgot about it. But because you mentioned it in our recording of the first podcast, I was like, oh, that type of sword. Yes, okay. And things started connecting. Because, as you mentioned, this woman did not have those white entrails. I assumed that this was a different power that wasn't the one power, but it was just a good action set piece to get things started. It actually took me a bit of time to realize that she was pregnant because she was just moving so fast, and I was watching all her moves and her slices, and it was maybe 30 seconds to a minute in when I realized, oh, she's fighting for 2, and so I just loved it.
I did too. And I loved because, and like you said, I feel like they've overemphasized some things that they didn't need to. And I feel like they've underemphasized some things that they did need to. because I feel like if they'd have talked a little bit about that blade, if Rand have even mentioned, I got that from my father, or told a little story somewhere along the path with Matt or something like that, it might have been a lot more impactful. Book readers obviously knew the Heron Mark blade was something that Rand had basically gotten from his father, after the attack at the Two Rivers.
Right.
But so for us, it was all a fist pumping moment because we were like, oh, good, everybody's going to know who Rand is now, or at least the fact that that Tam wasn't really his father, because we were all so upset by the fact in some circles, not in non-TV circles, but in some circles, we were upset that there was no fever dream. That little bit of a flashback that we had towards the end of the episode when Rand figured out who he was, where he was carrying his father and his father was hurt and he was saying these things to his now dead wife, not that woman, but to his now dead wife that he had brought Rand home to. He was basically recounting that in full detail in the books about what happened. And Rand just simply didn't believe him in the books. He thought, no, you're my dad, and blah, blah, blah. But Tam was kind of off in this fever dream and kind of let everything out of the bag from the beginning. So as a book reader, you're on kind of a different journey than the one that Rafe took TV only viewers on. So when they finally did this fever dream at the end here, it's like, yeah, okay, I understand you're trying to play up this question for TV only people, and this is one of the ways to reveal it, but it just all feels so convenient, overly convenient to me from someone who had to go through the process of the entire story in the book. Still, as soon as we saw that Heron Mark blade pointing at her, you didn't need to see the actor's face to know exactly who that was, and that was a big fist pumping moment for me as well. Plus, man, Rand's mom is a badass. I mean, just loved it.
And I guess I don't really want the answer to this, but should I assume we're going to learn more about his mother and possibly the identity of his father in this? Or is that, once again, I don't want you to tell me, but that's naturally what would happen when you suddenly realize, oh, okay, this isn't his father. So then who is his father? His mother, whatever her powers are and whatever reason she was fighting all those people, there's a bit of story that you naturally want to be filled in on. And so I assume the show's going to do it. But if it doesn't, that also maybe be shocking.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Bubba, I can only tell you that Rafe has the option to play it either way. And it'll be just as fun for me to find out how he does that as it will be for you, hopefully.
Just a fun way to start the episode. Because it didn't feature any characters we knew, especially in that beginning part, it almost told me, okay, this is a flashback. This is something that happened previously. A bit like when we met Logain, about how suddenly we're seeing a scene which didn't have anything to do with our existing characters. You go, oh, well, this must have happened a while ago or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I love it when bombs like that get dropped, for sure. In the meantime, our heroes, well, 4 out of 5 of our heroes are on a journey of their own. And they're traveling down the ways. First of all, there's a big fight that breaks out at the beginning because Rand's like, oh, we got to open this thing back up and get Matt. And Moiraine and even Loyal says, no. We don't use the one power here because Masha Shin will come and get you if you do. I think he says that later on in the episode. But there's quite an argument there because, that's the way Rand has done nothing but stand up to Moiraine the entire time. And so it's great at the end of the episode to see them actually cooperating to try and save everybody else as they go off into the Blight on their own. But it doesn't start off so friendly. And then we have Egwene explaining that Matt left them instead of they left Matt. And then now it starts to sound like Egwene's very anti-Matt, which makes Rand mad as well.
Can I say I was on Team Egwene on this? They didn't really leave him. He didn't come. And so that was his choice, not their choice to leave him. What as someone who's new, and if this was explained in the episode, I must have missed it, but it's just kind of nobody ever said, well, why can't we reopen? We're right here. Why not just reopen this Waygate and go get them? But I assume the hashtag reasons. But I was on Team Egwene is what I really wanted to point out. She's right. Rand may have a point that, hey, you don't leave a man behind. But what if the man wants to be left behind?
Mm. And that's a good point. And it is explained a little bit further along. Loyal says basically that, we to use the one power here brings on Masha Shin, which means nothing to a TV only person
No, it doesn't.
who's heard that, hearing that word for the first time, or those two words for the first time. So I can understand your confusion there for sure. And I didn't think that was played off very well. Hence my slightly lower rating. I think it could have. In fact, one of the big criticisms that I had, Bubba, was I thought this Waygate stuff was so fantastic, and I wish we would have spent less time having a Perrin, Egwene, Rand false love triangle, and more time there in the ways where some of this stuff could have been explained a little more. But that's just me, and that's because I already have that knowledge. It's easy for me to say that, whereas, TV only people are taking this in just as they can get it, and so that makes it a little more confusing, I think, for people. But
we are on the same page as far as this world in the Waygate, whatever you call this area. Yeah. I loved the way it was designed. Here at times I was tough about the look and the lighting within the White Tower. I thought this was a great design. I thought this was a great look. This looked fantastical. This looked otherworldly, like it should have. To me, this whole journey, not to say it was derivative of Lord of the Rings, but it feels like in Lord of the Rings, don't they go through a place called the Mines of Moria, and they have to battle a monster there over a bridge called the Balrog or something? And so it was it felt very similar to that. But that's a great sequence in Lord of the Rings, and this was a great sequence in the show. So I agree with you. We could have spent a whole episode in this area. It was cool.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we did get to Faldara, although I can talk more about that a little later. But the whole idea of Loyal is probably, I think he's been compared even by TV only people to being kind of a Treebeard kind of character that moves, thinks about things being very slow, and how humans and hobbits and what have you move very fast compared to them. You need time to say good morning, and it takes them 7 hours for Treebeard to say good morning to whoever. But Loyal also tends to like to move very slow. So I thought that was great. But here, Bubba, you have a note. Lan and Nynaeve have their bond.
Well, here in the ways, I just love this whole section. I've mentioned about how it felt like in some of these episodes, the story got off track a bit. One thing that was accomplished is they did develop a bond between Nynaeve and Lan. And so any just hint of it feels like it's being paid off. Like, okay, all that time we spent seeing them together before is paying off now. So later on in the episode, I can say that I thought that they were almost cute together. But here it was just like in the ways, it was just a payoff moment to say, hey, remember how we spent, 20, 30 minutes showing how they have a bit of a bond? This just pays that off.
Right. I think that's great. And as they're moving through, Perrin has special vision with his wolf eyes, evidently, and he notices that there's something ahead. They move towards it, and poor Loyal, this is a place that his people built.
Okay.
Ogiers are called builders, and this is one of the things that they helped to create, was these magical ways from place to place. Which seems very weird for an Ogier who likes to move very slowly to want to be able to go from one place to another very quickly. However, you can find some humor in that, I guess. Maybe that was Jordan's intention. Nonetheless, they have these kind of little map stones along the way that help you decide which way you need to go in order to get to a gate here or there. And it has been defaced, which is, Loyal spends a great deal of time while they're in the ways talking about how it used to be very organic there. There was grass, there were hills, there were fruit trees, and these kinds of things. And here it looks like it's just pretty much barren and stone. And then the maps have been defaced, making it difficult to figure out how they're going to go. Then it feels like that they are being they hear something, right? And then that's when they think that maybe they're being followed by something.
Right. Yeah. Ugh. It's
Yeah.
creepy. You know, this is the point of fantasy. We want to see these things. Love it.
Absolutely loved it. And Egwene and Rand, they have their little moment where, you know, they've got a moment to rest here because it's going to take Loyal a couple of minutes to figure out what the heck's going on. And so Egwene and Rand have a little snuggle moment. And Perrin is, and this is where I start to get the CW vibe. Perrin's looking across at him, and he's just kind of very unhappy about it, or he seems to be very unhappy about it. And even Nynaeve notices that, which ends up causing another big problem later on once they get to Faldara.
Can I jump in on this, Matt?
Sure.
So you keep referring to this as the CW teen and tween romance angle. To me, not to say it isn't that, but it also, as I mentioned, how things before, it feels like, oh, well, this is a payoff of something we've invested time in. The show invested time in episode 1, showing that Rand and Egwene were an item and that they had a falling out. And then that falling out, you know, kind of has been a running thread on their part of the story. We mentioned last week when they meet outside the Way Gate, there isn't that big moment to show, well, how are our feelings now? And so you call it a CW moment. To me, it's just paying off what the story has been saying. The story says these two have a deep emotional connection. And so I want to see it. Even if they suddenly break up and fight, it's just paying off what's been laid down. And so I didn't have any trouble with it.
Well, see, that's not, I guess I didn't define myself clearly. My CW moment wasn't Rand and Egwene. I'm perfectly cool with that. My CW moment was Perrin. And the way that he was reacting to it, because we saw weird reactions at the beginning of episode 1. So you can say, yes, that's carrying through or whatever, but there was no explanation for it. Then when they are alone with the Tuatha and running through the woods, they don't have any moments like, you know, that would indicate that Perrin feels any way about her at all. And now all of a sudden that she's back with Rand, we have these moments, and it just feels uneven and
I agree.
Yeah. So that was my CW moment. Not so much. Egwene and Rand, they're a lovely couple together.
I knew you loved Rand. See, I tricked you.
Well, I love Egwene more, and if Bubba, I love Egwene more, and if she is about Rand, then I have to support her, even though she's going to find out that she's made a terrible mistake at some point.
Man.
Well, anyway, that all gets interrupted because, wait, there's a whistle. And then the Trolloc
I didn't catch these whistles. You are so smart, Matt.
Yeah. So Padan Fain has evidently jumped on a Trolloc's back and found his way into the ways. And he is clearly, what I love about that is the way the whistle keeps paying off, and we don't get any more until they get out of the Waygate. But the whole idea of the fact that he has been, not unlike our damsel from episode 3, he has been a dark friend all along. That's why when we saw Beltane being attacked, he could just have a drink, smile, and walk away. And anybody would normally think, well, he's probably dead. I think they even mentioned in this episode that they thought he had been attacked at Beltane. Lo and behold, not. And that whistle pays off. Egwene hears it, and then all of a sudden a Trolloc attacks. And as the Trolloc attacks, one power gets used.
And the show fooled me. The show fooled me. I was sure it was Egwene, releasing her power. And then to later learn that I was actually fooled. Once again, 9 out of 10. I'm so glad you agree with me. Almost perfect episode.
I just do not like retconning whatsoever. I mean, I understand that they were just showing it from a different perspective to hide it until the big reveal at the end. But nonetheless, that kind of stuff. I used to complain about how the heck they grew tomatoes on the island in Lost. So if I'm going to complain about that, you can guarantee I'm going to complain about something like this. Nonetheless, the one power gets used, and bam, Bob's your uncle. The as Loyal described it, to fall off of one of those ledges is to fall into an endless void. And
How
that
does he know that?
oh,
You told him that's what it felt like.
I don't know how anybody would ever be able to tell him, to be perfectly honest. But I'm going to take Loyal's word for it. For
I need
certain.
a second verification, Loyal. I'm a journalist.
Here, you jump. Come back and
Right.
tell me later.
Right.
They have to run across a bridge, and they start to hear these voices. And from out of the darkness comes this. It almost looks like the wind is animated. It feels like the wind is shrouded into bats, or shredded into bats. Just these kind of all these things that blow around them. This is what Loyal called the Mashashin. This is the black wind, as it was defined. And what the black wind does is it whispers all kinds of things into your ears. All of them usually have some nugget of truth within them, but it can be distorted to make you to change your. It's meant to drive you crazy until you have to stay there forever, and essentially become part of that. So.
I thought it was real funny after the Trolloc is destroyed, even though we were just told, in maybe less than 5 minutes of showtime, hey, don't use the one power in here. It's really bad. That after the Trolloc was defeated, the first thing out of Moiraine's mouth is, well done, all of you. Did what? You guys just broke the one rule we're never supposed to break. Good job. Well done.
Well, see, that's an interesting thing, because I was wondering what she was complimenting him about, Bubba, and we can talk about that in a second. But I was thinking that she was complimenting them on being able to resist the voices in their head more so than anything else.
I think she. Okay, maybe, sure.
Well, I mean, that's just my opinion. You're more than entitled to your opinion, of course. Nonetheless, Nynaeve, we think it's Nynaeve, decides that she's going to protect everybody, and she really amps up her one power and holds off the winds as Moiraine uses the one. They get to the Faldora door because they weren't going to have time to get to the one at the Eye of the World, and Loyal leads them to this door. And as Moiraine opens the door, having to use the one power, naturally. See, normally, if you weren't using the one power from one place to another, by the time you opened up the one at the gate that you wanted to leave, the wind wouldn't have time to catch up to you. But because it got used prematurely, the wind is following them, and they hear all kinds of things. Perrin hears about how he
wanted his wife to eat it. Oh,
yes. And Egwene hears that she's an imposter. She'll never be what she's supposed to be. And Rand hears, she's going to leave you over and over and over again. And that's not all that he heard. We find out at the end of the episode.
Correct.
But nonetheless, this is the part that makes it convenient for the big reveal later. And Nynaeve hears that she's going to watch him. She's going to hear them all die, or she's going to see them all die. And because that goes against her, what she's trying to do is protect them. It's all wonderful. Lan hears that that Moiraine's gonna fail him, or he's gonna fail her. Moiraine hears that she's so wrong about everything. It's lovely. All of these things, these whispers that they hear in their ears. It's something that can place doubt in all of their minds. But Moiraine gets it open, and she says, "Good job, everybody. We made it through. We're here. Thank you for getting there, and for not killing each other while you were in there due to the whispering of the wind."
I have a challenge for our listeners. And where can our listeners write to us, Matt?
At BustBlockbuster on Twitter.
Okay. So the challenge for our listeners, and I hate to ask you to do more work. We ask for all these things from you, but we want this to be an interactive show. What's the name of this bad wind again called, Matt? The
Mashashin.
Masha Shin. If Masha Shin was going to talk to either Double M Matt Murdock or me, Bubba, or our sometimes co-host Catfish, what would it say to us? Like, what would it say to Matt?
It would say, Patman is better.
Oh,
Patman
no.
is better. Patman is
no.
better. That's what it would say.
Oh,
That's my greatest fear, that my nemesis, my 24th favorite Patman, who is Patman23 on Twitter, would be superior to me. And, well, let's face it, it's already come true.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that's what we assume. Listeners, write to us and tell us what you think this Masha Shan. Is that it? Oh, I want to rock you, Masha Shan. Masha Shan, I'm going to rock you. Feel for you. So anyway, write to us and let us know, or tell us what you think the Masha Shan would say to you, or what it would say to the showrunners of the Wheel of Time.
I just want to hear what you think it would say to Bubba. I just want to know. Would it say things like, that Christmas tree in the YouTube shot, it's so bright. What's up with that Christmas tree? Put it down. You're anti other religions by putting up a Christmas tree. Would it say that? You have to watch it on the YouTube. That's youtube.com/c/the word double, the letter P media on YouTube, so that you can see Bubba's pretty tree. It's very pretty. So someone comes out of the gate after them, which, how the heck does that work?
Not good.
I guess when you're a dark friend, you get favors done for you. And so he managed to emerge from the gate. And yes, it is that swaggering walk and that petticoat and all of the hair. That is Padan Fane, the person who's been whistling his way through the ways. So love that. And then Moiraine says, "Hey, we've arrived at the fortress city of Faldar," or actually, I think it is Loyal who says that. And Moiraine says, "Hey, we got friends here. Let's rest up before we go, die." And
I always like to rest before I die. I want to be refreshed.
I want one good night's sleep before I sleep forever. Thank you very much. Hey, turns out this is Lan gets in, and the first person to greet him calls him Dai Shin. Dai Shin, he says to Lan, which is a translation we later find out to mean basically the heir apparent to a kingdom. So that is very interesting. But this is evidently the place where Lan was brought to when he was a child, because he was supposed to be the king of another place, and he was smuggled there as the Blight took over his old kingdom. And this is where he grew up, and the family, he has family, so this is his hometown. I'm kind of taking things from further in the episode and bringing them forward so that we can save some time here.
No, do it.
But he's everybody's very happy, except maybe the king, who doesn't seem to like having visitors, because he thinks, as most men do, that a woman has come to try and take his job over. And because he thinks these kinds of things, which is completely in the wrong. And by the way, Moiraine shows him up by saying, "Hey, we just saw Trollocs in that waygate. You've been defending that passageway for thousands of years, but did you think about the fact that they might be in there?" And he says, "Oh, okay. I see. You're smart. I'm going to do what you say immediately." There are some tensions there, but it quickly gets pretty resolved. This is Lord Algamar, or Agmar. I can't remember exactly how you pronounce his name, but he is a wonderful character in the books. We'll see how much more he gets in the TV show. But I loved Lord Algamar often, and his sister, so to speak, whose name now escapes me, but it also starts with an A, because she has a little bit of that one power. She trained with the Aes Sedai, evidently, when she was younger, but wasn't quite good enough to earn a Shah, or to earn to get into an Aja, or I guess to take the oath even. So they sent her back home.
Rejected.
Yeah. Now, as if, they've got a place to rest now. They've got quarters, and they can go about their merry way for a day and to prepare to die. And Moiraine wants to see who's going to die and who's going to be the Dragon Reborn. So she goes to her friend Min, one of my favorite characters. Even though she doesn't show up very often in the books, but she is one of my absolute favorite characters because she just sees things in people that is fantastic. The way that she sees them, and it's a lot of times it's very metaphoric, so that it can, just like George R. R. Martin, it can be translated into anything later when it actually comes around to the story being fulfilled. But it gives us a lot of things to guess about. And she wants a message also sent out about Matt, Moiraine tells the king's sister, or Lord Agamar's sister, that the White Tower needs to know that Matt is still running around there. And she says the Red Aja should do it. Now, is Moiraine already saying that Matt should be gentled because he's not along?
Fine by me. I hope so. No, of course
You
not.
are the
Moiraine-
inventor of Matt the Brat, so yeah.
Matt the Brat. No, Moiraine probably, as a non-book reader, somebody who's just watching this for the first time, if I had to guess, I believe Moiraine is saying set the Red Aja on him because they get stuff done, right? They'll do it. If she puts them on it, they'll find him. So Moiraine's on the good guy team. She is not quite on the Matt the Brat team that I'm on.
Okay. All right. I guess that is the case. As they're, taking a tour of the town, this is where Perrin does think that he sees Pada and Fane walking past them. Nobody else seems to see it. We don't even really see it. So he must have been in disguise as they walked by, but that's not going to fool old Goldeneye. He's going to see right through that. And the idea that Nynaeve says, well, he was at Beltane, man. He's gone. Are you seeing ghosts? More or less is what she says to him. And, I mean, he's got his wolf ways. Maybe he is seeing ghosts for all we know. And then they go to a place to eat where Moiraine has brought them so that men can
check them out.
And Perrin's telling Rand about the ways of the leaf, and all Rand seems to want to do is see how far the wind can blow the leaf. Moiraine talks to Min, and the seer can see Perrin's yellow eyes and describes
yellow eyes, blue moons, or green clovers.
Yeah, and then Rand cradling a baby, which was very strange. Then she takes a look at Egwene and Nynaeve and sees a white flame and a ring of gold. I mean, I love that. What do you think she means by that?
Well, hold on. I want to know. You just said I love that. Why do you love that? What is?
I'm just saying I love that. Ring of gold? Man, white flame? Wow. What could that possibly mean?
Yeah, you're playing book reader games here, Double M. You must know what that means.
Folks, you will find out in the next book reader cast that I do, which will cover episodes 7 and 8. But yes, I did love that. I love that nod.
Here we go. White flame, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, think about what this is non-book reader solves it. You don't even have to wait for the next book reader cast. So white flame. What happened when Egwene was forced by the White Cloaks to use the one power? She threw out a little spark, a little flame that got mocked, right? Like, that's nothing. So obviously she's going to grow in power and she's going to burn up all the White Cloaks. White flame. Okay, and ring of gold. Hello. You think this is tricky, but I'm on to you, the Wheel of Time. What did we learn in this episode? Maybe we learned it in previous episodes, but what did they reinforce in this episode? Hey, guess what? Wisdoms aren't supposed to get married. They're not supposed to put a ring on it. But she is stone cold getting busy with Lan, so she's going to get a ring on it. Hello. Solved it.
Wow. Nynaeve is Beyonce. I love it.
I solved it. Easy.
Yeah,
Easy
there you go,
peasy.
folks. There it is. If you want to tell me don't tweet at Double PHQ on
Do
this because
not.
Bubba doesn't want to be spoiled. But if you want to tweet at Bust Blockbuster, I'll take your ideas of what those are in terms of what it might mean for the story, and I will share them at some point in the future when Bubba isn't present. So after all of that reading, she also looks at Moiraine and says that this Amerlin seat's going to be in trouble. I love the fact
Oh,
that
is that
Catfish.
what she said? Is that what she said, or
Well,
did she?
she said the Amerlin seat is going to be her downfall.
Yeah, her
actually.
meaning Moiraine, correct?
Yeah, I guess you're right. Then Moiraine tells the lovely group that she finally says, okay, guys, I've put this off long enough. This is our last day here. Most of you are gonna die. Do you still want to come? And I mean, I need all of you to come because one of you might be the dragon, but the rest of you are gonna die. So what you gonna do? This is it. Enjoy your last night here on Earth, and all of you come, and we will use the Dragon Reborn and sacrifice the rest of you to the light, in order to get this thing done with the Dark One. That's a big pill to swallow. I don't know, man. If Moraine's saying that to me, I'm like, I'm gone. I'm gone.
Man up, Double M. This is the Dark One. You've got to defeat him.
No.
Put on
it-
your big elf tights and let's go.
Well, I'm telling you, the only person who seems to be up for it is Egwene.
I'm on Team Egwene. Hello. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, she does man up. She says, yeah. Hey, she says, heck yeah. Dark One, what are you? And basically, everybody else says, oh, wait a minute. And then this starts this whole other fight that's going back and forth about whether they should go or not. And it gets to a point where there's something about how can we sacrifice ourselves this way, blah, blah, blah. And then it becomes about Egwene. Not that Nynaeve doesn't help things towards that right away by saying, parents got a thing for Egwene, basically, is what she says, which sets Rand and Perrin off for each other. Rand and Egwene are at odds because Egwene's like, how could you even think that? Even though it seems apparent to us that Perrin is hoping for that at some point. All of this CW drama. And
Matt, enough. Listeners, these are the characters we care about. We care about what's important to them. Why not get it all out before we're all about to go die past the blight at the eye of the world?
Okay, yeah, I guess that's true. You want to go with a clean slate. So
now I know what that dangerous dark wind's going to whisper in Matt's ear. You loved Dawson's Creek. You can't wait to watch another episode of Riverdale. Legacies is going to be canceled, then you'll cry.
Yes, that's my story in just a couple of quick sentences, because that's where I live, is on the CW for sure. The heroes say, finally, they say, hey man, we're gonna sleep on it. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna take it. It's a Meatloaf song. Let me sleep on it, baby. And then they go off on their separate ways. Moiraine tells them that running and hiding isn't gonna solve anything. You're gonna die anyway. Is basically what it sounds like she's saying to them. Egwene says that they need to do what they love. They need to do this. And she ends up kind of getting up in Nynaeve's grill about all of that, and everybody's still fighting and fighting and fighting, which I've already covered. And then
yes, you've covered it. Let's go.
Skip ahead to Lan and Moiraine. They're kind of hanging out, and she says, I see the way you've been checking out that girl. Why don't you just go and do your thing? I really like her. It's okay. And I'm assuming that the kind of connection that they has, maybe Moraine's got a thing for for the flame of Tarvalon. So maybe she might enjoy feeling a little land's escapades on the side too. You never know. Anyway, Lan goes outside. He's headed to see the people that raised him. But of course, he's a warder, so he knows when he's being tracked, and he kind of calls her out on the fact that she's not a very good tracker today. She's probably a little distracted. And then he just says, I was just kidding. Why don't you come on in? And she goes in and has a nice dinner with the family.
Right. But then after dinner, it's about to leave the CW and go back to Amazon Prime After Dark. They're outside what I assume is his room. And it's like that awkward moment where, okay, you're supposed to kiss her. She's supposed to kiss you. And Lan pulls away. And I was like, that is not cool, Lan. But Nynaeve, if you want it, go and get it. She comes into his room and they're an item. And I was asking our listeners, what is their ship name? Is it Lanive or is it Nylan? What are we going to call him? Nylan? I like Nylan.
We'll call him Nylan. Why not? Let's call him Nylan. And the thing is that while they were at the family, then we learned that Lan was the man who would be king.
Right. Yeah, we learned that. Yeah, come on, let's get to the love.
So yeah, because Bubba's all about Aes Sedai After Dark and Amazon Prime After Dark. And
they
all of
each
those.
Listen, both Moiraine and Lan have an Aes Sedai on the side. It's fine. What's wrong?
It's an open relationship. It's an open relationship. There's nothing wrong with having an open relationship, right?
Okay.
But we find out that basically Lan's kind of like, well, I know you can't get married, and obviously I'm tied to the Moiraine girl, so we've got to have an open relationship of our own. So we'll do our little thing on the side. The whole idea of the wisdom not being married, Bubba, actually was kind of hinted at in the very first episode.
No, it was. You're right. Yeah, because Egwene was going to become a wisdom, aka Rand. We're not together anymore. Whoa.
Yeah. So that is another thing that's brought up there. Meanwhile, Rand is doing his thing. He's just being angry and shooting arrows at targets because it makes him feel like the man that he isn't. And Egwene basically gets tired of waiting for him to come back to her and apologize. and Rand, he basically says, well, I've typically found that it's better to just leave you alone and let you come to me because that's what I really want to talk. And then even though he does say, I'm sorry, but it feels like he's saying, I'm sorry for the fact that he was scared rather than that he was sorry that he offended her.
No, that was, I'm a Rand Fender, but that was not a real apology.
Yes.
That was like, I'm sorry if you feel bad when I was being awesome.
Yes.
But Rand does, let's get Rand Fenders in arms here. He does say, hey, I'll be your warder. If you want to do that, I'll take my place by your side, and they make up. And that's what we wanted, especially considering how this episode's going to end. It's good that they had that night together.
Well, I mean, they knew they were going to die, right? So what else are you going to do the night before you die? Well, get a good night's sleep. You could try to do that.
If you're Perrin, apparently you're just going to sit by yourself. Look at the walls.
Poor
Or how about this? What if you're Loyal? You're like, where'd everybody go? Am I not in this episode anymore? Okay.
Loyal's a builder. He's an
over
gear. He's just checking out the architecture. He's like,
oh, brother.
Yeah, they destroyed what we built, and they built this on top of it.
Sure.
Let's check the progress. Let's see. How long did it take them? Oh, they spent some time. It took them a couple hundred years to do this.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Boring. Yeah, no wonder you got left behind, Loyal. Get to some action.
If Perrin would have been smart, he'd have just found Loyal and had a really nice conversation that night. Anyway, let's move on. So Rand, he wakes up in the middle of the night because he's had, you know, I don't know if, I guess we go back to Rand, the flashback to Rand's mom being crazy warrior and tearing up everybody. And when Rand goes to ask Min if he is the Dragon Reborn, she says, I see rainbows and carnivals and 3 beautiful women. I love that. What do you think she means by that?
Well, rainbows, carnivals, and 3 beautiful women. I think that just means a future episode is also going to be Amazon Prime After Dark.
I think it just means that she's seeing Rand for what he truly is, and that is a womanizer, and a circus clown. But
terrible.
You know, as you mentioned, everybody's got a partner except Perrin. Perrin is partnerless. That's almost a double P. And then
he took care of that.
Yeah. And then we get this whole bit where Rand has these flashbacks of himself of like, oh man, you see, it wasn't Egwene in the area, in the ways. It was me. It's because it's with Rand. It's always all about me. It wasn't.
That was a great moment on the show.
It wasn't Nynaeve that held off the Masashin. It was me. It was me who knocked down the door. It was me. I am the Dragon Reborn. Men tell me I'm the Dragon Reborn. And Min basically says, I've been seeing this for 20 years, and you're just now getting here. Man, get out of my damn head. Love that. And so Rand is at the same time that Egwene, Nynaeve, are talking about the landman, and then Perrin walks in, and they've all decided, yeah, we're in it. We're willing to die. But Rand's going to see Moiraine at the same time because he doesn't want any of them to die. The one noble thing that he does. And then Lan comes in and says, wait a minute. I thought Moiraine was only going to wipe my bond when she was with the Amerlin seat. But now she has run off to the Blight with Rand because that's what Rand does. He just steals women and
all right, yeah. Hey, that's the second beautiful woman. He was seen with 3. So Egwene, Moiraine. Anybody else's name rhyme with Ain?
Dun, dun, dun.
Good work, Rand.
So they're headed into the Blight, which looks an awful lot like the forest from the Lord of the Rings that came and ate all of the Uruk-hai at Helm's Deep.
Well, Matt, I'm so glad you're bringing this up. And I mentioned it before about how this story and can feel maybe tropey, and maybe it could feel very derivative of Lord of the Rings. But really, I think back to my childhood when there was this little Christmas movie called Die Hard that came out that a lot of people liked. And then everybody said, oh, why don't we make a story of like Die Hard, but instead of in a building like Die Hard was, we'll be like, hey, what about Die Hard on a bus? And then we got Speed. And then there was like, well, what if there was Die Hard on a boat or a train? And we got some Under Siege movies. And there were all these movies that were derivative of Die Hard and maybe weren't as good as Die Hard, but were relatively entertaining action flicks on their own. And so if this story maybe feels a bit derivative of the Lord of the Rings, it doesn't mean it's not good. It's entertaining. I'm on board as a newbie, and I see how it has these parallels, but I think they've done a really good job in getting me. Like I said, when this episode ends and they're headed into that Blight, I immediately wanted the next episode. I wanted to go. I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, okay, this is it. This is what the whole season has led to. Let's go. It's just a walk, right? It's just a walk past this city. And so I can't wait to see what comes next.
I think that those are good points, Bubba. I'm not going to argue any of those. I mean, I know I'm making a lot of Lord of the Rings references in terms of this story, or Star Wars references,
Right.
because those are all stories that are based on a kind of a mythological architecture that everybody draws from a lot. So there's nothing wrong with the fact that they do that. It's just it's easy to make jokes about, or not good jokes, but it's easy to make jokes about. And so that's why I typically do it. But I think that what you're going to find is, as this series goes on, and we'll get a great finale, and you'll be interested in coming back for a season 2 of this. And you'll I think, as a book reader, I don't want to say too much, but I do want to say that if you're really not into the Lord of the Rings thing that much, or all of these kind of references or tropic references, hang around. It's like the weather in Missouri. Hang around a minute, it'll change. And so that's my words of encouragement to TV only people who might have thought about giving up on this, especially after all that CW stuff. The worst thing about this episode is that it's Rand. It had to be Rand. What could be possibly worse than it being Rand? And that's what we're going to ask next. It's what's worse.
What's worse?
So, Bubba, this is where me and you play high school debate team, and one of us asks a question, and the other one of us has to give an answer, one or the other, and the person who asks the question, since we don't have a third here this time around, has to respond with the other answer and try to create a convincing argument so that our people who are listening, our loyal listeners, can vote on the polls at Bust Blockbuster and tell us who indeed was right as far as what was worse. Do you have a question for this week's episode?
I do. And so this is one that I know the answer to, but I want to know, Matt, if you know the answer to it. So what is worse? Announcing to Moiraine that you're the Dragon Reborn, aka Rand comes to Moiraine and says, "Hey, I'm the Dragon Reborn." Is that the worst? Because it is a very cocky, confident. Hey, you're looking for somebody. Well, that somebody's right here, Moiraine. Or is it worse to, not even go on the trip? So what's worse?
Well, obviously, I can tell you what's better, and that is not going on the trip, because Matt didn't have to go through any of this CW bull crap.
Oh, he would have. They would have listened to me. There would be a Sarah Bareilles song playing as he thinks about his parents and his sister and the girl who he stole that bracelet from in episode 1. There'd also, he'd be thinking of, if this is my last chance on Earth, if only that friend of the Dark One was here. That barmaid.
Yeah. Oh. So definitely, especially because it's Rand, because it's what could be worse than Rand. Announcing that he's the Dragon Reborn to Moiraine is worse, because Matt clearly was the ultimate winner of this game.
No, I just realized who Matt would have his final night with. So obviously Egwene and Rand have their night together. We have Lan and Nynaeve having their final night together. Do you know who Matt's final night, who he would cuddle in his final night together with?
The Masha Shin.
No, close. The cursed knife. He loves that thing so much.
He could have some real fun with that.
Safe fun. Be safe.
Well, I'm sure there was a safe word involved. What would the Masha Shin whisper to Matt had he come along?
You're doing a good job. Way to leave your friends behind. There's more darkness in you than anybody. Great work.
Well, there you go. Folks, we're going to put those up on the poll for you to decide. Because we argued them all so eloquently.
Poorly,
we know that you will poorly vote for those as well. And Bubba will once again win, because he always wins, as our feedback polls tell us each and every week. Like this poll regarding last week's What's Worse. Someone who says cannot or will not or someone who corrects you by saying it's try to instead of try and.
Well, how did our listeners respond to this, Matt?
Well, there were 1,500 votes, pardon me, on the 100 Twitter. That's a lot of votes on a 100 Twitter. It's almost like 15 of you voted, and it was close. 53.3% said try to, not try and, was worse. The person who says that. Another poll of what's worse says, what's worse? This was Catfish's favorite question to ask because he just loved putting us in a position to have to argue points, which I argued poorly. But what's worse, having your lover call you mother or having your lover call you son? 62.5% of 1,600 votes on the 100 Twitter said calling you son was worse. I don't remember which one I argued.
Yeah, lover, this is, they're games that people play. I don't judge. Whatever floats your boat, listeners, I'm down.
If you're going to have an open relationship with an Aes Sedai and a wisdom, then you might as well just play whatever games you want. So the next what's worse question, because we had a lot of them last week because Catfish couldn't just ask one.
No.
So what's worse? This was my question that I believe asked. Having the one power used to make you stay away from the Amerlin seat or having it used to make the feelings of someone getting close to the Amerlin seat be masked. And Bubba argued eloquently that, having your bond wiped was great, but he lost. He lost to Catfish, who said having it masked to stay away was worse. 62.5% of 1,600 votes on the 100 Twitter. That's almost like 9 out of 16 of you voted to stay away and the use of the one power. Finally, Bubba's perfect question for last week, which drew a lot of angst feelings, as I heard over the course of the week through feedback. But this question was beautiful. I love this question. Bubba asked, what's worse, being made to kiss the floor or being made to kiss the ring? And I believe Catfish argued kiss the ring, and I argued kissing the floor. Our most engaged poll this week, 1,800 votes on the 100 Twitter. 61.1% of the voters said kissing the floor was worse. That's right. 1,000-year-old bacteria is bad. And
Catfish wanted to eat off the floor. Remember that?
He wanted to eat off the floor because he thought kissing the floor was better. But instead, kissing the wren, because I don't know how to spell when I do polls, 38.9%. And we got this on Twitter from Hamlet is Dead as well.
We love Hamlet is Dead.
Definitely a loyal listener. Retweets everything that I tweet. Thank you so much, Hamlet is Dead, for participating in all of this. But the Moiraine exile. You just weakened a nation today, son. So that's a reference to something else, I'm pretty sure. But I love that it was applied there. Bubba, we have not heard from Dooley's left legs until now. He is one of our favorite loyal listeners. What did he have to say?
Now, Dooley wrote, well, except for the uncomfortable Triple M.
Triple M?
Well, come on. You don't remember last week's episode? It's the moist mother moment.
Oh.
Except for that uncomfortable moment, I think it was a decent episode. It was more of a filler in Dooley's thought, answering questions we weren't sure of as a non-book reader of this story. It sets up for the adventure to come and doesn't rule out 4 of the 5 dragons. And then Dooley really came through and wrote, I love Big Red and I cannot lie. Heck to the yeah. Thank you so much, Rand Fender, Dooley's left leg. Woo.
All right. That's awesome. That's awesome, Dooley's left legs.
We love Dooley's left leg. Follow them on at Dooley's Left Legs on Twitter.
Absolutely. And Bubba, I have to read this one because not only
good.
does my nemesis scorn me, but he
What?
also scorns you. And I don't want
Oh,
you to have
good.
to read that. This is from Patman23 on Twitter, our good friend and loyal
Never
listener.
heard of him.
We love Patman because he is so good at enraging me. He's just so good at it. Hey, that was a great podcast covering episode 6 of the Wheel of Time. Favorite part of episode 6 was probably Egwene giving Rand a big hug because, like a stand-up guy, he hadn't gone home like Matt wanted. Yes, that's true.
Great.
I'll give you that. I will concede it. The podcast discussion raised some issues that I would like to comment on. I don't.
That
think
sounds like
Moiraine-
it goes over the character limit. There's no way he could have written any more, right?
He wrote about 7 tweets here, so let's just continue on with him. I'll tolerate it as long as I can. I don't think Moiraine actually kissed the floor in the throne room. Technicalities, Patman. Technicalities. She just put her forehead to it. So a lot of the kissing of the floor discussion is maybe not that relevant. Everything is always relevant. Bacteria can come up off the floor whether your lips are on it or not. I appreciate Catfish's willingness to eat off the floor, which did look super clean. It's true. As for the music, when Moiraine swears her exile oath, I didn't necessarily interpret the music trying to tell me that that was a terrible thing, but an important thing. I was worried how Moiraine changed the words of the oath being dictated by Swan, who stated that Moiraine would be exiled until the Amaryllis seat rescinded the exile. And if Moiraine, as y'all observed, said not the Amaryllis seat, but Swan Sanse, that made me worry, since if something fatal happened to Swan, Moiraine would be exiled forever. But if Swan gets deposed, let's not say killed, and someone like Liandrin became the Amaryllis seat, that person would have no leverage on Moiraine, and her exile could be lifted by Swan.
Smart Moiraine.
Yes. Anyway, I took the scene much more personal between Moiraine and Swan, since Moiraine spoke the end of the oath much louder, and that the middle part where she specified Swan, or than the middle part where she specified Swan.
Matt.
Yeah, I know. Reading something I'm still working on, Bubba. I tried not to challenge Bubba's takes because that's Catfish's job or area of expertise. But I disagree with his assessment that the show featuring some time on Moiraine and her relationship with Swan as some kind of reshuffling of the focus. His example included Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, but even the Fellowship movie included scenes where Gandalf travels to Isengard.
We're going to Isengard.
They're taking the hobbits to Isengard to report to Saruman, and discovers that the wizard has been connected with the desire for the ring, fights him, is imprisoned, and escapes. Even though these scenes don't include Frodo, we don't decide that the movie is really about Gandalf and wizard politics. So, having Moiraine getting some attention does not really make me feel that she's more important than the unrevealed Dragon Reborn. Like, I want to see a Tom Maryland backstory too, but of course, we know that Rand is the most important character. Accept it. Oh boy, man. You know.
Can I respond to that?
And you can. Can I just say this though?
Sure.
I mean, can we just stop talking about Rand so much? It's really starting to hurt me. Okay, Bubba, what you got?
Well, I think, not to give you more work, Matt, but I think you're going to have to edit all of that out because there are huge spoilers about Lord of the Rings in there.
You know what? I think you're right. I think Patman does not deserve 7 tweets worth of feedback. But he's got one more.
Oh, my Lord.
And that was regarding this week's episode, saying, I'm looking forward to the episode recap from the podcast. A lot of things happened. Surprise Trolloc involvement. Surprise backgrounds. 2 Rivers gals getting some action. Visions, flashbacks. And, of course, exemplary behavior from Rand.
Oh, shit, wait a minute. You didn't do
Coach
anything.
Trolloc,
Coach
what are you
Trolloc,
doing
get out of here. Get out of here.
In the
Coach.
feedback section, Coach Trolloc, come on.
I mean, just go back to GM Mydrol Fade's office, please. YouTube comments. Bubba,
great.
you always enjoy reading Priscilla TVs. You want to tackle this one?
I
'Cause
do.
it comes
And
at
I
me.
do. Here we go. So you ready? This was from Priscilla. And everybody, if you want your feedback to be read on the podcast, you've got to give it to us. So please drop that feedback because we care what you think. Priscilla TV wrote, "Oh my, where to start? I agree with all the points you made. And yet, at this point, I do not mind its flaws, as I am very much into the series. I remember the first season of The Witcher, which was very uneven, but I was having such a good time with it, I couldn't care less about their cheap dragon." Spoiler for The Witcher on Netflix. Priscilla continues, "Perhaps the job of a first season is just to introduce the story, the main conflict, and to make viewers care about the characters. And if this is correct, then I think the Wheel of Time showrunners are doing a good job. As for Rand hate, man, Lan was not having any of Rand's sword waving. But Matt, with one T, was actually the greatest Rand hater when, upon seeing his friend actually risking his own life to save him, he just says in a disappointed tone, 'Bless his heart. At least he tries.'" Oh,
That's
Priscilla.
right. That's right. That's right.
Priscilla,
Give it up
even
for
Coach
Priscilla
Trolloc
TV.
loves you. Now, would you believe Priscilla gave us some feedback as far as the book cast that we
Oh.
recently put out, a spoiler book cast?
I think this is the one where she takes me out. She took
Mm.
you out on that one, but she takes me out this one.
So here, Priscilla says, Matt with two T's, aka double M, Matt Murdock. She said, "I loved hearing you solo." Wait, what? Ouch, Priscilla, that hurts. She continues, "I do think the flashback with Suan served another purpose, one of world building, showing there are regions of this world and other groups other than the children that do not take channeling lightly, women or man. It also establishes the dragon fang symbol and the stone of Tyr, and both might appear in later seasons." Dun, dun, dun. Oh, thank you so much, Priscilla, except for saying you love hearing Matt solo. Ouch. Just thankful.
Well, she just knows that you're not going to be commenting on any book things until you read all 15 books in the off season, right? Which is what you're going to do. Yeah. No? Okay.
I think I'm having connection trouble.
Okay. Well, Kerr
Kerr.
came back with some feedback. Kerr offers some great feedback in my book reader podcast, which we read actually last week, but I had read it so poorly as I did Patman's. I read Patman's poorly on purpose. There's triple P in there somewhere, but the whole idea here is that Kerr always offers great feedback. So Kerr says, "If you are the Rand haters, I'm going to declare myself the naive advocate." Ooh, I love it.
Whoa.
Yeah. From her perspective, so far the Aes Sedai are not exactly big role models. She was told as a kid that they're elitist snobs. Then one comes to the village, arrives to the Trolloc fight late, and kidnaps 4 kids because they are important. But then she immediately loses them. So Nynaeve has to heal her to even ask where the bleep she lost them.
Oh, man. Naive advocate is going to town here. I love it.
Yeah. Then they join a group with more of them. And the first other one that talks to her can't even get her name right and bleeps about the other ones.
Yep.
The group of Aes Sedai then fails at containing a prisoner, which almost gets everyone killed. So Nynaeve is again the one that has to save them all. As a thank you, she gets basically locked into the warder's quarters, and that very first Aes Sedai tells her she probably should stay away from all of the other ones because the whole tower is full of egotistical mean girls. Nynaeve, however, still manages to find, admittedly by random chance, the lost kids before the Aes Sedai that has a spy network in the city. I will fully defend that at this point, the logic of I probably don't need and want their help. Thank you very much.
Man,
Well,
that made us all naive advocates. Very good points. You're right.
yes, absolutely. Double No Test Channel asks a very important question. Should I read the book if I enjoy the series?
Ooh,
I
great
responded
question.
on YouTube to Double No Test Channel, saying that they're different. There are differences, but I think that you can enjoy either medium in their own right.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Good to know. How about this? If, admittedly, we haven't seen the final episode of this season yet, but if you read the first book, will there be anything spoiled that they may cover that they haven't covered that you think they might cover in a later season?
You might want to read by the time you get to season 2, if you want to be caught up with where they're going to go. You might even want to have read through book 5 by that point. I think I'm going to try to. Yeah.
Whoa. If you're like me and have not read the books, but are planning to read the books over this break we're going to have, let us know. Convince me. Maybe I should read the book. I don't know. Let us know.
Yeah. I mean, there's only 15 of them. What else have you got to do? Most important question of the entire podcast.
Oh, great
actually, the most
question.
important
Love it.
piece of feedback. The Endless Mike says, nice Christmas tree, Bubba, which has been blinding me to the point that I can't read the feedback ever since we started this particular podcast.
We have some great people we've talked to online, and the Endless Mike is one of the favorite people I love seeing online. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoy these set decorations. Just like the Wheel of Time, this podcast cost $10 million an episode.
It absolutely does because of that tree, because of that damn tree. So you're welcome, Endless Mike. Thank you for so much for you being a loyal listener. We love you, man. I hinted at a whole bunch of clues in the music. Well, I didn't really hint. I'm hinting it now. There are a whole bunch of clues in the music about a greater part of the story, and it's all in just two love themes that were prominent in this particular CW version of the Wheel of Time. It's a 12-minute segment, folks. If you're not into the music, skip ahead. So that's the first of two love themes that we heard in this particular episode of the Wheel of Time. That particular one we've heard before, and I had intended to break it down a couple times before, but that's the theme for Rand and Egwene that you just heard there, or at least a small snippet of. That's about all I can play for you. If you want to hear the full version of it, go to the Volume 1 soundtrack of Lorne Balfe's for the Wheel of Time, and you'll find the full cut under the title Innocence. And I don't really want to break it down too much. I will tell you that we heard it, of course, when Rand and Egwene were atop the mountain overlooking the Two Rivers village, and they were talking about her becoming a wisdom, and Rand said, yeah, I know you have to go. We also heard it when they were standing together in what I was calling the Flatiron Building in Shadar Logoth, when Rand went off to do his usual whiny self by him alone, and Egwene came and found him because she's a lovely person. And then, of course, in this episode, when they hashed out their differences and made up, we heard this theme here. The one thing that I do want to comment about it is it's in a minor key, meaning that it has a sadness to it, or, sadness or darkness to it. And when you think about the way this theme has been applied and the way that their love generally goes with the storyline, it seems fitting that it would be a darker kind of sound, simply because it always seems to be about their inability to be together. In this case, it came right before Rand realized he was a Dragon Reborn, and now he's having to leave her behind. In the first episode, it was because Egwene was wanting to become a wisdom, and that meant they couldn't marry. And in the Shadar Logoth episode, the second episode, when they were standing in the Flatiron Building, as I like to call it, they were somewhat at a distance from each other. Rand and her were kind of at odds there, because that's what Rand does. He's his whiny self. So it's almost a representation of their doomed love rather than their blossoming love. And that's really kind of sad, isn't it? Because as much as I hate Rand, I do like Egwene, and this seems obviously painful for her as well. On to the other theme, because this is the one that I really loved, and that was a theme for Nynaeve and Lan, and it occurred a lot during the time that they were together in this particular episode. You will recognize it once I play it here on the piano. Now, Lorne has a new soundtrack out, Volume 3. There's 3 volumes of his soundtrack for this series for just 8 episodes, which is great because you get almost all of the scored music, or at least a great deal of it. But anyway, on the 3rd volume, you are going to find this particular cut under the title, Follow Your Heart. A beautiful title. And it's done with voices, primarily. And it's a beautiful arrangement. And I'm going to break down why that progression, which has been used a lot, actually, in pop music and in orchestral and score music before. We'll break that down in a second as to why it's so effective, and especially as it relates to the two of them. Follow Your Heart from the Volume 3 soundtrack from Lorne Balfe on this is where you'll find that cut. But it is based on something from his original concept album called First Turn that came out before the series debuted under the title of Mashiara, which translates from the Old Tongue to mean lost love. Now, why on earth would Lorne have done that? Why would he have titled that Lost Love and then use it for Nynaeve and Lan, who are just now discovering each other? And I'm not going to directly spell this out for you. I kind of am, but I'm going to leave it to you to do the final math on this. Lost love. Let's put a few things together. Lan and Nynaeve are falling in love, or at least they're becoming very close. Back in episode 2, Moiraine told a story about Manetheren and its stand against the Dark One. And there was a particular group of people who stood against the Dark One and held off the Dark One's armies for 13 days. If you go to the bonus materials that are supplied when you watch an episode, those animated series, there's something in one of those episodes, one of those little mini-sodes that are animated, regarding that story that Moiraine told. And you see the story of a king and his queen who, once he fell, she released a whole lot of energy that basically wiped out all of the rest of the Dark One's forces and everything in the whole area. And then Moiraine tells the story about how the people came back to rebuild in episode 2. All of that is connected. But why am I relating it to Lan and Nynaeve? Well, let's see. Nynaeve has a great deal of power. Lan, we found out in this episode, is a would-be king. A woman with a great deal of power and a would-be king. And Balfe originally titled this Lost Love, or translated to Old Tongue in Mashiara, Lost Love. We've also heard how the wheel spits out souls, resets them in, how Rand, we know now, is the Dragon Reborn. Reborn. His soul has come back. Have other souls come back? And I'm just going to leave it like that for you and let you put it together. And you can call me crazy if you wish. Tweet to @BustBlockbuster and call me crazy. That's fine. I'm all good with that. Let's break this thing down. As I said, a long time ago before I went off on my tangent. As I said, there's a lot of similarities between this particular piece of music and pop music that we've heard, your typical pop ballad, as well as things that have been used in film scoring before. The first that I want to look at is just this chord progression. It goes from the home key, what feels like tonic, to the minor 3. You don't need to know these numbers, but that is a very typical thing. I'm talking about this. One of the most significant ways that that's been used in film scoring for me before was a big theme in Lost, the Live Together, Die Alone theme. Used that exact same first chords for progression. That ding, 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 boom, 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 boom. Uses the 1 to 3, just like this does. And if you think about the original title from Lauren Balfe, not to get back on my tangent, but what is Lost about? It's about souls finding each other, right? Oh, okay. It's also something you hear a lot in pop songs. What it does is it allows a certain movement of notes and certain notes to be the same, and it gives it a little more sadness. It gives it a little more emotion. Maybe not even sadness, but just kind of an emotion. The second part goes to the regular minor of that key, the thing that feels like it's the minor 6. Again, don't worry about these numbers. And then goes to drops on down to the 4. As all of this is happening, you'll notice that the melody is continuing to get higher. So you have contrary motion of the bass going down, the melody going higher, creating greater separation, creating a stronger feeling of emotion. Contrary motion, we've talked about that here before. This part. Then the harmony repeats. It's the exact same harmony. The 1 to 3, the 6 to the 4. Don't need to know those numbers. Just know that that's the numbers that we would assign those bass notes. And the second time around, it's more powerful because it also is weighted down by the 5th of the chord being in the bottom. What does that do? It just makes it feel even stronger. And it's at this point that the melody goes to its highest point. The bass note is at its second to lowest point, but the melody goes to its highest point. Again, creating more contrary motion, which really makes it feel strong. It makes you know that this is right. And even though that we know in physics gravity tends to pull things down, this love is so strong that it continues to rise up. Not as high as it got before, but it continues to fight against the gravity pulling down. Again, going up and making it more dramatic, more strong. We know that this is meant to be. I'll go back to my tangent because it happened before. All right, so that's how all of that works. And I hope I didn't bore you too much. I hope you don't think me completely crazy with my theory here as to why Balfe named these themes the way that he did and what they mean in terms of the overall story. Please be sure to check out Follow Your Heart on the 3rd volume of Lauren Balfe's soundtrack for the Wheel of Time. And check out the original from the first turn. On that soundtrack, it's called Mashiara. Oh my gosh, it is a beautifully sung and performed version of this song. I think that's Peter Cox. I'm not positive, but man, is it good. We got to get back to Bubba.
Man, Matt, I have a hard time believing that was a full 12 minutes because it just flew by. It felt like 11 minutes.
It's almost like we didn't listen to it and just went straight to the end. Folks, thanks so much for checking us out this time around on YouTube. We love you for doing so. Thanks so much for checking us out on the audio podcast. Don't forget, we desperately want to hear from you, especially with this final episode coming. And we want to know what you're thinking. If you have any predictions for episode 8, please tweet at Bust Blockbuster with them, or at the word double the letters PHQ. No book spoilers for any of it. If you already know what's going to happen, then you know what's going to happen. Just like I can't give any predictions here. Bubba, do you have any final predictions for this final episode upcoming?
My only prediction, and this would be completely crazy, but I'm going to say it anyway. Okay, so this book series is 14, 15 books long, right? So you would assume, man, there is no way they could defeat the Dark One, especially since we really kind of haven't seen much of the Dark One on the show. Maybe he's that creature in dreams with the glowing ember eyes. But you'd think, boy, there's no way they could kill the Dark One or defeat the Dark One here because there's 13 or 14 more books to go through. But I'm the opposite. I'm like, yeah, let's just, what happens after you defeat what you think is the ultimate evil? I think that could be fascinating. So I'll go crazy and say, yeah, Rand, Moiraine, the team, they'll take him down. That's my prediction.
Bubba, I love that simply for one reason. If Rand finishes his job at the end of this 8th episode, that means that we get 6 seasons of him going mad.
Oh, wow.
From being a channeler. Wouldn't that be awesome? I would
Well,
love that. I would love that so much.
All right, let's go.
Yeah. Don't forget facebook.com/the word double the letters PHQ. Also, don't forget, we love comments on our YouTubes. We love it when you subscribe there. YouTube.com/C/the word double the letter P media. doublepmedia.com, same spelling. mattsaudioblog.com, MATTS audioblog.com, and mattsaudioblog@gmail.com is, if you're old fashioned, it's hard to think that I grew up in a time before there was the internet. And so therefore email was the newest and coolest thing. And now it's old hat. Nobody sends emails anymore. You prove me wrong. Send me an email, mattsaudioblog@gmail.com. And please subscribe to any Double P podcast. I'm going to remind you one more time. I know that if you like this kind of stuff, you probably also like Star Wars stuff. Well, I don't want to make generalizations, but I'm betting that you do. And if you do, Parsec Passion is coming. December 29th, the Book of Boba Fett comes to Disney+. And guess who's going to be there? Bubba and Catfish to give you every glorious moment. And I do the music of Ludwig's score for them also. So I don't record that with them. I just send it to them because, they don't include me in the cool club. We want you to subscribe to Parsec Passion. We want you to subscribe to any Double P podcast. We want you to send a screenshot of that. And you only have this week left. Send me a screenshot of you being subscribed to any Double P podcast at Blockbuster. And you are entered into a contest to win official Amazon Wheel of TIme apparel paid for by me.
Hey, 1 episode left. I can't wait. Cannot wait. Some people are waiting for Santa to come down the Christmas tree. Heck no. I'm waiting for Jeff Bezos to finish editing the final episode of season 1 of the Wheel of TIme.
Jeff Bezos, Jeff Bezos, Jeff Bezos, Jeff Bezos, Jeff Bezos.
Oh, no. What if he took it into space and he hasn't brought the latest episode back? Come on, Jeff.
Oh, he left the negatives up there? Because, it was shot on film.
Son of a gun.
Happy holidays, brother.
Happy holidays.
To the